We look at so many cars on here, it's finally time for us to show you the most expensive car ever sold. So allow me to introduce you to the one most expensive car of all time. It's the beautiful Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR Uhlenhaut Coupe. This baby was built all the way back in 1955 and is a racing model built to duke it out on the pavement for long races like Le Mans. Did you ever see the movie Ford vs. Ferrari? Yeah, that kind of race. This car was a true feat of engineering for the time. It was able to hit 180 miles per hour, meaning it was the fastest car of its era by far, even if it wasn't properly credited at the time. Back in '55, the fastest car officially on the road was also produced by Benz, the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL and its 150.7 miles per hour record. So yeah, the SLR was fast. When I say most expensive, I mean it too. The car was eventually sold for $140 million after a tense auction where an unnamed buyer won the prize of the day. Trust me, you'll see later why busting that $100 million barrier is such a big deal. The next question simply has to be asked. Why? Why is this so expensive? I mean, sure, it is a beautiful classic car, don't get me wrong, worth topping the record even for something like $50 or even $60 million. But over $140 million? What, does this car secretly talk like Knight Rider or something? Well, it's not the car itself that's what's so special. It's the history around the car. Before it was sold, the company held it in a collection known for having historical significance. This one was clearly its crown jewel. Only two 300 SLR Uhlenhaut Coupes ever hit the road. Both were created by the company's racing director, Rudolf Uhlenhaut. This is where they got their name, obviously. Despite having such a high speed, especially for the time, the two cars never raced. This was because of the infamous crash at Le Mans, which took several lives and cast a dark shadow over the sport. The infamous car crash occurred when the Jaguar racing car slowed for a pit stop, forcing another car to swerve into the path of the much faster Mercedes-Benz. The next thing anyone knew, there was a huge explosion. The collision caused debris from the Mercedes-Benz to fly into the audience, taking several lives and injuring several more. Many of these injuries included people working for the Mercedes company, including the driver. The later inquiry stated that none of the companies or the drivers were to blame, but the out-of-date track, which wasn't built for cars going that fast, was. The damage to the company was still done. Mercedes wouldn't race again until the 1980s. It is a true benchmark of history for both car companies and motorsport racing. So not only were these cars constructed around the time of the '55 Le Mans Motor Speed Racing disaster, but they also never hit the speedway in the following years. So they've remained in pristine condition as beautiful historical oddities that never got a chance to hit their full potential. Until now, that is. They may never have won Le Mans, but most expensive car ever purchased is no small accomplishment. It is worth noting that while we're calling this the most expensive car of all time, you've got to remember that these kinds of auctions are often held in private. So could there be a billion-dollar car out there that Elon Musk bought at a museum auction against the likes of Oprah, Mark Zuckerberg, Jay-Z, and Jerry Seinfeld? I sincerely hope so, because that sounds awesome. Auctions that hold these kinds of events are next-level affairs. They are secret auctions with secret buyers for often secret amounts of money. Even the buyer of the headline scoring most expensive car of all time has kept his name on the DL, showing how tight the security is for these things. I mean, nowadays you can find out the plot for the next Marvel movie 6 months in advance and get classified documents leaked by a staffer. The fact that they kept any secrets at all shows just how intense the security must be. I have no way to know for sure, but I imagine it's exactly like that scene in Squid Game where all of the VIPs who gamble on the games are wearing bizarre animal masks while people serve them food and champagne. It's likely more dull and sophisticated than that, but the concept is still the same. The auction house that sold this beauty was none other than Sotheby's. They are known for bringing in the biggest deals in the worlds of art, property, and specialty items. For instance, they were the ones that sold the most expensive painting ever, a $110 million Monet. So setting up secret auctions that shatter records, like a typical Tuesday for them. I'm sure the profits they get from hosting Squid Games are far more lucrative though. Come on, you know they're doing it. While this did set a record for the most expensive car of all time, it also won something of a race between the oldest luxury car brands in the world. Only this race wasn't won pounding the pavement, but by stacking up unbelievable amounts of cash. Classic cars that are something of a historical commodity have been stacking up astronomical prices for a long time now. So much so that it was clear a car valued at $100 million was something of an inevitability. So if crossing the $100 million mile line wasn't the surprise, what was? That would be the company that actually snagged that first $100 million value. Just listen to the vice president of Hagerty Automotive Intelligence in the valuation wing. Despite Ferrari being the most likely to have built a $100 million car, Mercedes-Benz was the most likely candidate. So everyone in the know expected a Ferrari to be the first company to sell a car for that high a price. No kidding, they were the ones who held the last record. Breaking records are kind of what these cars were made for. While the intention was for them to bust speed records, they have no problem cracking monetary records as well. Before Mercedes broke the $100 million barrier, the previous world record was set by Ferrari. That would be the 1962 Ferrari 250 GTO. It was sold for $48.4 million, which was a huge deal at the time. Now it seems sadly low in comparison. In fact, Ferrari had these records on lock. Those included the second place 1962 Ferrari 250 GTO Berlinetta for $38.1 million, and the third place 1957 Ferrari 335 Sport Scaglietti for $35.7 million. Low, right? Well, not a few months ago it wasn't. Of course, now that the $100 million barrier has been shattered, everything has changed. It's been predicted that Ferrari and Bugatti having classic rides get over $100 million valuations is inevitable. In fact, it seems like Ferrari will almost certainly outsell Benz within the next decade. Even still, they'll never be the company that got to 100 million first. You know that's gotta sting. So now that I know how much these cars are going for these days, anyone want to buy a heavily used Dodge Dart for 120 million? What if I include a free air freshener?